Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit more on my journey from religion to truth, so stay tuned and check out the rest of this video. Hey guys, welcome back. So the last time I left off approximately the age of like 10 or so. By that time, most of the construction was done on the new church, and they had started holding services in the new church. Now, me and my dad were still doing some restorations to parts of the church because it was like 2 buildings and a gym. So like we had finished the restoration on like the main church. The second building was going to be like a daycare, and then the gym, there were going to be classrooms in the gym, but they were leaving like the gym open. And so there was still some things that were going on. So we were still doing some work, but like for the most part, like the main building was done. And so we were moved into the main building, but there were still other things going on. So we were still doing some work there. So it was still known that me and my dad were doing the work there, which still didn't cause me any help in that arena. But anyway, things change, things move, things go on. So we're still kind of in this like preteen class age bracket, and they are now more teaching the fire and brimstone type sermons to the preteens and the teenagers of like dating type things. Like, you know, if you go too far, you know, sin, fire, brimstone, you know, it's bad, it's horrible. But they never kind of define what too far is, but you know, as kids, you're starting to kind of make connections of what too far means. And at this age, like, you had kids that were doing like the whole, this is my boyfriend, this is my girlfriend, and there were the whole like church hookups and all this stuff. And it was a weird age. But for that 2-year span, things were as they were. I really kind of had enough with this group of people. I knew I was never going to fit in here. It just was not going to happen. So my best friend, who is somebody that I call my sister, and we're still best friends to this day. We've been best friends for now 30 years. We met when we were like 6 years old. I used to spend a lot of time at her house, and she used to spend a lot of time at my house. So her family started going to this little bitty country church. Now that's another thing that's like a thing here in the South, is like, I was going to what was called a city church, and her family attended what was called a country church, which by its name is out in the country. It took us like 20-30 minutes to drive to this church, and it was out in the middle of nowhere. It was literally out in a field, but it was a little small country church. And this church's dress code was different from the church that I had attended, where like it was very strict about what you wore to church. At the church I attended, it was very relaxed at this other church. So at the age of 13, I was still going to the church that I originally attended. That age is when, you know, womanhood hit. So things really like kind of got out of control for me at that age. So I was spending a lot more time at my friend's house and kind of like exploring life a little bit more. And her family wanted me to go to church with them. So in doing so, my friend was like, no, you don't have to wear a dress or anything. Just put on your blue jeans. Let's go. what? I get to wear my blue jeans to church? Are you joking? So, the dress code was more like blue jeans, t-shirts, tennis shoes. It was a lot more relaxed. So, I enjoyed that a little bit better. But it was still a Southern Baptist church, which was still the women are in this kind of role, men are in this kind of role. And the children, but it was all of the children. All of the children sat on the back row of the church. We all still did the note passing back and forwards kind of thing. But it was all of the kids. It wasn't kind of like selected out and whose kids sat where kind of thing. And it was a little bit more relaxed kind of setting. The sermons were still very fire and brimstone, and even if you thought something, you were going to hell. But because everybody was kind of on the same kilter, and there was not like this huge group of people that were treated one way and another group of people that were treated another way, it was a little bit nicer. Now, I attended this church with my best friend and her family for a few years. And we kind of did like a church hopping thing. Like during the week, we went to this one church that was just a couple of cities over. Didn't take us very long to get out there. And that was when I was at the age of 14. And I pretty much lived at my best friend's house. I had some family issues that I do not really want to speak on, but things were not good. And so I lived at my best friend's house. I was 14. I was rebellious, and I worked for my dad. And I had been working for my dad since I was 9. So I had money. I did whatever I wanted to. And I met a 21-year-old guy. Thought I was so smart. And I started dating him at this church. Luckily, we were never alone and things never progressed besides just, this is my boyfriend, we see each other at church, we see each other in passing kind of thing, but not very smart thing. Again, that church was also a Southern Baptist church. In the South, you have a lot of Southern Baptist churches. Like I said, they are pretty prevalent. But for the most part, we went to this small little country Southern Baptist church in the middle of a field. By the time I was 16, I had stopped attending church. My friend's family had moved away, and from the time I was 16 till I was 18, I was working and going to school full time, so I really did not have time to go to church because on the weekends I worked. During the week I went to school. After school I would work. And so there was not a lot of downtime. At 18, I graduated high school and I had scholarships to go to college, and I went to a Christian college. But the college I went to was a Catholic college. It was still a Christian college. Not everybody that went there was Catholic. So you had religion classes, you had your regular college classes. Religion classes were mandatory. You had to take at least 2 semesters of religion classes to get any degree at the school. And then, you know, again, you're in the South. There's churches everywhere. So I had to started going back to college again. Back to church again. I started to attend churches again. And I was, at this point, by the time I was 16, I had started drinking and had a pretty high tolerance for alcohol and was drinking quite heavily. I was battling some demons, and was drinking quite heavily and trying to figure out my life. I was working on campus, I was going to school, I was attending church, I was drinking quite heavily. I met my first ex-husband, who was Pentecostal, which was a flip from what I was used to. And I was like, maybe that's what the thing is. Maybe my normal religion is not helping things. So I started going to church with him. And that was a total culture shock. People like speaking in tongues and falling out in the aisle and dancing. And it was just way different from a Southern Baptist church, because people don't just holler out in a Southern Baptist church. People aren't dancing up and down the aisles. Things are not done like that in a Southern Baptist church. You might get a quiet amen or a quiet hallelujah, but that's about it. There's no screaming and hollering in a Southern Baptist church. But these people were like screaming and talking in tongues, and it was confusing, sensory overload, just way out there. And so I was very, very confused the first time I went to church with him. And his family was very, very into church. And by this time, like, I'd already started getting tattoos. I'd had my labret right here pierced. And it was... I was already on a different path in my life. But I didn't understand what was going on. So I agreed to go back the next week, kind of hoping that I would lose his number and forget. But I went back, and it was the same replay, and like people that I had grown up with in Southern Baptist churches were attending this church. So I was like, there must be something to this, because people that grew up the same way that I grew up are here. So, you know, I talked to a few of them, you know, was trying to figure out things. And I ended up staying with my ex-husband, and I found out that I was pregnant with my first daughter. And my ex-husband drank, you know, like I said, I was drinking at the time, but he drank a lot more than I did. And when I found out I was pregnant, like, I turned my life around. Like, the parties had to stop, but he could not stop. So I ended up leaving while I was pregnant, because I was very sick, and I needed like a calm environment. And I went through my entire pregnancy with my daughter on my own. I stopped going around to anybody that he even hung out with, because I just needed to focus on her and me. And so I went through my entire pregnancy on my own. My daughter was born almost a month late, and she had meconium aspiration at birth, and she was born dead. I had started letting him back into my life 1 week before she was born, so he was there the day that she was born, and she was born dead, and they had to resuscitate her. And she spent 4.5 weeks on a respirator, and then she spent an additional 2 weeks in the NICU unit learning how to suck on a bottle again. I did not hold my daughter until she was a month old. And I remember sitting by that bed every single day. And you couldn't touch her because she would get overstimulated and she would start fighting against the respirator. So I would sit next to that bed every single day. And I remember praying every single day to trade places with her. Because I would trade places with her in a heartbeat. And I remember when they took her off the respirator, I was like, it's an answer. It's an answer. You know, I just swore it was an answer. And I spent those 2.5 weeks, those additional 2 weeks that she was learning how to suck on the bottle. I spent those days like vigorously trying to teach her how to learn how to suck on a bottle, because I was like, you know, she's got this. She's going to be good. She's going to be good. And when she came home, she had stomach problems, and she wasn't learning how to crawl, and she wasn't learning how to sit up, and it was just, something was not right. And at 6 months old, they diagnosed her with cerebral palsy. And I cried. And her father looked at me and said, "Why do you have to be such a bitch?" And I remember praying, let me switch places with her. I will switch places with her. She can be normal. I will take it on. I will take it on. Just let her be normal. And I immediately put her in early intervention programs, hoping that maybe we could, like, you know, help rewire her brain. Maybe she could learn a different way. You know, maybe she would be slightly delayed, but, you know, she could learn. I told him then that I wanted to have another child close in age with her, so that when I get older and I'm too old to take care of her, she would always have someone to fall back on. And we started trying for our son. And I got pregnant when my daughter was 9 months old. And I watched my daughter struggle and become frustrated because she couldn't do things, and get aggravated and struggle, and it was heartbreaking. And then my son came along, and he picked up everything so quickly. And then she would see her brother do it, and then she would try to do it, and she would get so mad, and she couldn't. And it was hard to watch her be so frustrated. And I prayed, let it be easier for her. Let her not be so frustrated. And I'm going to end that right here with both of my babies being babies. My daughter was a little bit over a year old. And my son would be about 6 to 8 months old. This puts me at about age 22. Okay? And I'll pick up with this on another day. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. Ring that bell so that you're notified every single time that I upload a video. Down in the comment section down below, let me know what you think of this series so far. What are your experiences with Southern Baptist or with Pentecostals? And in the description box down below is my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and email. You can interact with me on any of those platforms, and I will see you on the next one. Bye for now.